All right, I want you to see where this is going now, okay? By no means is it perfect. Yours won't work, but I'm going to give you the fix for it in just a second. So I run this now. It'll come up. So there it is. Okay, and I'm still not sure why that's not black, but the hint text, but I guess I must have changed the color on the hint text. But 72, 111, calculate works, clear works, and magically I go to my other page. All right. This doesn't work yet, and there's nothing on here yet, but we're going to fix that right now, okay? All right, first thing that I would like both of you to do, please, because it won't work without this. When you put in your own button routines like we have done, it is mandatory usually, in fact I think always, but it's mandatory that when you do that you put in this, view. You probably don't have that in yours. So go over to your calculate BMI and put in view. We know when you're done, and we'll go down to the next one. We don't need it for validate height and validate width. It's just the ones that we're actually calling, all right, when we click a button. Okay, so we've got that one. You got that one, Keegan? All right. Next, you want to go down to, it's always done, clear, and you want to add a view for your clear. Got it? And then the one we just were writing with our extras in there, show individual stats activity, put it in there. And eventually we're going to write another one that's going to be called show group stats activity, and we'll put it in there as well. Does that make sense? And, you know, I didn't know how long this would take, and you may or may not agree, but to me, we're making big progress here. All right? Okay, just so you know, again, I could have called this anything. I could have called it hello. But a lot of times what you'll find is people will like in here, since that's the intent for the individual one, maybe I could have called that IND intent, and the other one could be called group intent. But a lot of people just call it the same name as the class. So intent is a member of the intent class in this case. Okay? All right, so let's go over to our code for our individual stats activity. Okay? There's not a lot less than we typed before. I'm just telling you that right now. A lot less. Now, there's also a few things that are different here. All right, because we passed information in, and I'm just going to give it to you from the top here. Okay? The first thing we want to do is we want to do a text view. We need a text view and a button. Why? Because remember what's on here? A text view and a button, right? Let me go back to this because I need the names. There it is. So this one is called TV. And gosh, I wish I could spell. Okay, it's not going to let me change it right now just because of the fact that I'm in the middle of typing something in here. That's why. So get rid of that. Change it here because it should be TVIND. Why isn't it letting me change that? I don't know. There it is. So TVIND stats, not TVINID stats, which is stupid. So it's TVIND stats, and the button is BTN return to home page. So somebody please remember that. All right, so we come in here. We got a text view for that TV. What was it? Too long a day for all of us. TVIND stats. Yeah, we could have called it anything, but that just makes sense to call it that. And we've got a button. It's called BTN return to home page. Notice that since we're in a different activity, it doesn't know what these things are. All right, but we can use our little hint here. So we can go down there and do the Alt-Enter and say import class. And do it again. Alt-Enter. Okay, so I've got those in there. Now, with the stuff that we're working with, we can't just come in here and do this. Int, remember we passed in the height? Int, looks like it's not giving me an error, but that's because I haven't tried using them yet. Okay? When I want to use them, for whatever reason, it expects the actual class name to be here. So integer height, integer weight. String is just a string. I think we call that BMI str. We've got another string, and that string is going to hold the BMI status. And I'm not sure if we'll need this or not, but I also have one called result. I don't know if we'll need this one or not. So I'm just going to leave it right there like that. All right. Then when we come here, guess what? We got to do the same kind of thing we've done before, in that we've got to come in here and set references to the widgets, to widgets above. So again, we're going to say text view, TV IND stats equals find view by ID r.id.tv IND stats. Now it's grabbing it though, and you should both understand this. It's grabbing it from the other XML file. All right, and this, what do we call this one? btn return to home page. And that's equal to, again, find view by ID r.id.btn return to home page. All right, that's the first thing. And I am putting comments in here, so hopefully when you start doing this on your own, oh, that's what we're doing here. All right. So first thing we have to do is get the attached bundle from the intent. All right. Looks very similar to what we did on the other side, and we're going to say bundle extras equals intent dot get extras. Now, it's not recognizing this. I'm trying to remember why. Oh, I'm sorry, because I missed a line. Good job, Jeff. So the first thing we want to do up here is get the intent in the target activity. So intent equals get intent. We get that error because it doesn't recognize this. So again, Alt-Enter, boom, it fixed that. What it's doing right here is it's saying, oh, I called it intent in the other one, and it'll be called intent in here. And I'm telling it to go get the intent that I just passed in, and we're going to take that information and we're going to put it into our new intent. Does that sort of make sense? All right. Then we want to literally extract the stored data from the bundle. And here is where we're going to have to put in an if and a bunch of ifs within there. It is possible that for whatever reason we passed the stuff, but it didn't get received on the other end correctly. It just didn't. Occasionally that happens. You pass something from a screen to another screen, nothing happens. So we only want to do this if our information got passed. So we're going to put a big if statement here that says if extras not equal to null. In other words, we're saying if something was indeed passed, All right. Then we're going to have to go in and we're going to have to check. So we'll say if extras dot contains key. Remember before when we passed it over how we put height in double quotes? Remember that? Well, guess what? That's the key. So if that's the case, then height equals extras dot get int height. And just in case something got screwed up, you put a default value in there. That should never have, you should never have to worry about that. But we're just putting a default value in of 0. Again, we should never have to worry about that. Did you hear me? All right. You know, either one of you ever watched, I know it's old and I'm really dating myself, Gilligan's Island? Okay, so you've never seen it. Well, it's these people that are cast away on this island. They go out for a three-hour tour and they get, there's a storm and they get on this island. They never explain a lot of stuff like they've all got a bunch of different clothes, even though they went for a 3-hour tour. But the point is this. There's a guy in there who's called the professor, and that's what he is. Okay? And he's a really smart guy. He makes a radio out of coconuts and he does all this other stuff. All right? Point is, he only believes in stuff that's scientific. In one of the episodes, they find this ring. And I don't know if you remember that one. This ring, supposedly, you can make a wish. Okay? And like Gilligan, you know, Gilligan wishes that that there'll be a rescue boat that night. And actually one is there, but it's way off, and nobody believes it's actually going to happen. All right? So what happens is, after a while, Gilligan says, this is ridiculous. And he throws it away. Okay? They all go running after it, of course, including the professor. And they you know, like Gilligan or the skipper, one of them says, Professor, you don't believe in that stuff. And he goes, no, I don't. He goes, and he winks at him and he goes, but just in case. That's what we're saying here. Just in case. Should never have to worry about it, but just in case. All right? So, I'm going to copy this because the next thing we want to do is the weight. It's going to look the same. Okay? But, don't want that there, sorry. So, if it contains weight, weight equals this with a weight. And again, we could give it other default values. You could put in there whatever you wanted to. We could put 72 and 175 and optimal weight. If we wanted to put that stuff in, we could do that. All right? Typically, the reason people put in stuff like 0 is that signifies, hey, something's screwed up. All right? So, I'm going to copy again. And this next one will be that BMI STR. All right. And BMI STR. Now, it's not a get int. It's a get string. All right. And we put in here BMI STR. That was the name of it. But notice the default value. Can't be 0 because it's a string. So I'm just going to put in the empty string and get rid of all the rest of that garbage that's in there. Okay? And that's BMI STR. All right, I don't know what happened here. It's telling me my battery's low. I don't want that one to stop running. What's going on with that? It shouldn't be low. It should not be happening like that. There it is. Okay. And finally, the last thing that's left in here is the status, which again will look very similar to this one. So I'm going to copy. Problem when you do too much copy and paste. And this last one was just BMI status. Which again was called BMI status. And again, I'm going to default this to the empty string. All right, we're almost done. Now we've got all of our information. Are you with me? We've got all of our information, okay? But what we don't have is we're not printing it out. Remember up here? Look on the screen here. Remember this thing? I said I didn't know if we need this or not. That's what we're going to use to print it all out with right now. So we got a string called result. So make sure you're outside of this if statement. See this big if statement here? Make sure you're outside of the if statement. All right? So I'm going to come down to here, and I'm going to say result equals \n\t height plus height. And again, probably should do this string dot value of height then result plus equals, wish I could spell, so result plus equals, all right, and then we'll put in the weight. Don't need another \n there, so this will be weight and weight. I do need a \n there, don't I? Put it on the new line. Now, remember I set it up so I could have blank lines in between? So I want a \n. All right, and that's weight with a little w. All right, just about finished with this routine. Result plus equals \n. \n. Something tells me there's going to be too many in here. 1, 2, 3. This. I'm just going to try putting in one \n instead of 2 there. Like I said, it just looks to me like it's. Remember, we only gave it 8 lines in there, so \n \t BMI. Oops. \n \t BMI. Plus, that was that BMI string. So there's no conversion there. You don't have to do a string dot or whatever. You don't have to do anything. Same thing with the status on the end. Plus equals, not just say status. BMI status. And then, and you know this already, TV IND stats dot set text to result. All right. Now, we're going to put something in here, and I think it's going to work, but I'm not positive. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to come back here to the XML page for this. I'm going to go to my button, and I'm going to find the onClick method for the button. Here's the onClick, and I'm just going to put in there return to home page. That's all I'm going to put in there. So I have to write that routine. That should make sense to you. All right. So I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to need my public void return to home page, and I think I'll need a view in here. And I don't know if you remember before the break, let me do my Alt Enter there to bring that in and import the class. Remember I said it was one line? Finish. It's the only line you need. All right, so I'll give you a second in case you're catching up or whatever. I'm not sure that's going to work, to be honest with you, because the way I did it over here, I did it another way. We're going to find out real quickly. You caught up? You caught up? All right, so File, Save All. Back to my activity main here. And I do want to do one thing first. for hint, there's a hint text, and I think mine is set to white, and I just don't like that. Somewhere in there it's set, something is set to white. Text color hint, there it is. I'm just going to set mine to is it darker gray? That's fine. There, that looks better in my opinion. Okay, all right. So I'm going to run this. So far, no mistakes. That's a good sign. All right. Should go back to the first page. Yeah. All right. 72, 111. Calculate. There's my inputted information. IND stats. It ain't showing. So something's goofed up there. We'll have to figure that out. Does the button go back? No, doesn't like that either. That's why I said I thought that it might give an error. All right. So I'm going to have to show you something now, and not sure if the explanation is going to be good in your opinion or not. But when you create buttons, there's two ways of doing it. Okay. First way is the way we've been doing it thus far. In other words, you've got a button. Let's go back because this is where the problem is. So you come in here, you click on the button, and you go to on-click and you type that in, or you go into code mode, all right, which is, now that button is in there in the on-click routine. In fact, it doesn't, there it is. See that? So you can do it either one of those ways. But yet, guess what? There is another way to do it. All right. And I looked, I read all sorts of different publications on why you do this, how you do this, etc. And I didn't like any of the explanations. All right, I'll show you what I ended up coming up with in just a minute. But, so that's going to involve a little bit of change here. I want to see if we get this to work. So, right now, we've just got this. Just public void, etc. So I'm going to change this, all right, and you'll hopefully it'll make sense in just a minute. But btn, what was the name of the button again? Doesn't like that. I don't know. Maybe it's because I did use the same name for both of these. Button back to home page. No, below it. Dot set on. Let's see. I'm giving you the right code. Finish is the right code, but it may need a set on click listener. So I've got something in here. Let's go look at this. So I'm going to go to this URL that I've referenced on my own page here. All right. So it says, I want to create a button that would lead the user straight back to the main activity, which doesn't have, etc. All right, how can I do this? So it says, let's say your main activity is called main.java. It says this is what you have to do. You have to do what's called set an on-click listener, and then put all this stuff in. All right, I'm going to try to copy this. They're making this way harder than it has to be. Let's just see if we can get it to work though. I wanted to show you the one that I've launched.
Hello guys, welcome back to another Android app development tutorial. In the last video we have learned how to add button widgets and also learned two different ways to implement click events. So if you don't know how to add on click attribute for click events, then you must watch that video. Link will be in this video description or at the right top corner of this video. Anyway, now in this video we are going to see another two different ways to implement click events using on click listener interface. Okay, so let's get started.
So what he showed previously is what I showed you. So that's how to add those.
Alright, as you can see, we have already added two buttons, one called next and the other one called previous. And this is an existing project which I have taken from our last video. Now inside our main activity.java class, we will first create two button variables. So private button next, comma, button previous, and semicolon. Now let's initialize these buttons inside the onCreate method. Button next equal to find VUID r.id dot button next. Then we also have to initialize our second button. Button previous equal to find VUID r.id dot button previous. And that's how we initialize buttons. Now we will set the click listener. So button next dot set on click listener. And here we have to pass a new on click listener. So new, then type on click listener. Hit the tab, so Android Studio will generate all the required codes for us. Now let's take a closer look on this particular code. So to enable click events, we have called set on click listener. Then inside the parameters, we have passed a new on click listener
That's the way I
as
did it in
an
here, and
argument.
all I put
And
in
in
there
this
was the
anonymous
finish.
class, we have an empty on click method, inside which we have to write our code for execute some functions. But for testing purpose, we will display a toast message. So toast, then set a message called next button clicked. Now let's set another on click listener for our previous button. So button previous dot set on click listener, then new on click listener. And for testing purpose, again we will display a toast message. Let's say previous button clicked.
So I'm going to see if I can use what he's got in here. So I want to say button, I don't know what it was called, return to home page, I think. So if I did it right, that should be all we need. Knowing the luck I've been having today, it's going to just give me nothing but an error, but we'll look. It's PTN, not button. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to waste your time, so it's up to me to figure this out. But let's go back and do this. All right? Let's go back to our main activity, and we just did this thing called show individual stats, right? See this? Well, let's copy it because the one we're going to do for our group stats is almost the same thing. Does that make sense to you? All right. So let me get back to here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy everything that I had right here, copy it to the clipboard, hit enter a couple times, oops, not there, hit enter a couple times, and this one will now be called show group stats activity. All right, still have our bundle extras, still have, this will look the same, except of course these are our totals. So this will be total underweight, and so will this. This will be total optimal weight. And so will this. All four of these are ints because we're just printing out the values that are in the counters. So all four of these will be ints. Now what's going to change here is we're going to be calling a different activity right here. See this where it's in blue? So you're going to want to say group stats activity. We'll create that in just a minute. We're getting the red because it's not created yet. All right. Everything else that's in there should be correct. One more thing to do, if you stop for a second, just take a look on the screen here, go back to your XML file, and for the main page, so your activity main XML, that button right here, all right, that button right there. So this button that we had here called, remember on our on-click, we had show individual stats activity. This one is show group stats activity. So on click, we'll need to put show group stats activity. Does that make sense? All right, and then we'll have to go in and create that activity. It's going to be very similar to the other one. Now, I've done this before where I've tried literally saying, you know what, it's almost the same as this one, so I'm going to make a copy. I'd recommend not doing that because there's so much stuff that happens behind the scenes with system files and stuff that it's really easy to get it screwed up, in my opinion, right? For whatever my opinion is or is not worth. But if you look right here, so here's the individual one that we have. And again, I got that error, I understand that. So I'm going to have to comment these lines out here. All right. But on the XML file, it's going to look basically the same, except it's going to say group stats. This will look the same, and this will look the same. Does that make sense? All right. So I'm going to create that one right now, and I'll give you the code for that one, and we'll just call it a period because it should be pretty close to the end of the period anyway. So for tomorrow, I'll go back and I'll try to see if I can figure out one thing I was thinking, and I don't think this is going to fix it, but you never know. I don't think what I'm about to do is going to do diddly, but you never know. And it didn't do diddly. Okay. All right. So I'm going to come back over here, and we got to make sure that this is called group stats activity. So I'm going to do it. I'll do it this way. This time I'll do a file, new, go down to activity. I'll just choose empty right away. That's fine. Okay. And again, this is group stats activity. All right. Finish. There it is. Okay, we'll put the code in a minute, but let's go to, you see when you start having a lot of screens, there's a lot of stuff open right now. And it's real easy to put the right thing in the wrong place or vice versa. You know what I mean? And it just is. But now, after we get done with this, and we'll finish this, we'll have something with 3 screens on it. That's more than what we've done. I mean, look at this. We're 16 or 17 days into this. All right, and this is a lot to throw at you right now. I understand that. All right, so what I want to do is, like I said, give you the rest of the code for this, and we'll call it a period. I'm going to try to make sure that by tomorrow I fix those buttons so that we're able to go back again and we're able to print the stuff, because otherwise it isn't doing much. All right, but we'll do that. And if we get done with all that, then I want to go over, I went over yesterday at my house, I want to go over the PowerPoints for lesson 2, then I want to go into lesson 3, which is on debugging. If we get done with all that, then what I'm going to ask you to try to do, all right, and is it going to be an assignment? No, but I'm going to give you a whole class period to work on it, is basically replicate this one, this program we've been doing, but do it with like rock, paper, scissors. That makes sense? All right. And then I'll show you, I'll give you a working copy afterwards, and I'll show you what I did to do that. And if we can do that between tomorrow and Wednesday, let's say, then I'm going to give you your next assignment. All right. And I should have your test graded for you by tomorrow, like I said. And yours, I'll just give it back. I got it in the other room. So. And I said, she had the same problem you did with getting that toast. I ran it this morning, and both of them, all of them showed. So hopefully yours will too. All right, so let's go in here and do this. So I'm going to go to my activity group stats.xml file. And again, it's going to be very similar to what we just did. In that, the first thing I want to do is I want to come in and I want to put in a text view right at the top. All right, again, I'm going to move it over and move it over and move it up. Come on. And then move it over here, bring it down to about 16. I think that's the way we did it before. And I'm going to call this TV group. I think we call it TV group stats or something like that. Stats. Okay. And I don't know, I don't remember if in here, oops, yes, I do want to rename it. I don't remember in here if I have one for the group stats, but I'm going to check. Group stats title, that looks pretty good. So there's group stats, okay? And just as we did before, I'm going to come in, I'm going to make the text size 30. I'm going to make the text style bold. I'm going to come back here to my form itself, or activity itself, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to find the background, and again try to change it to yellow. Alright, so I'm getting there. And then come in here and again add another text view as we did before. I think before, let's just call this TV results. Alright, yes, again I want to change it. And as we did before, so I don't know if we got anything we can use for this, but weight, height, main, individual stats, group stat, there's a button. Well, I guess I didn't put anything in there for that, so I'll leave it blank for now, okay? That's totally fine. But I'm going to change the size of this like we did with the other one. So I'm going to make this, I think it was 300 SP by 300 SP. All right, move that over. Okay, and like before, make it about 24 down and put in my button. Get somewhere down there, should be pretty good. And about 24, that looks good. And We've already used this, but again, since it's on a different page, btn return to home page. All right, and for the text that is in here, I think we've already got that text. Source ID, what return to home page already exists. That shouldn't be any kind of a problem. It's on two different pages. I don't know why that would be any kind of problem. It's on two different pages. I don't know why, but I'll check on that too. So, and then come down here, enter the text. We do have a button return in here someplace. Back to home page. So there's that. Does that all make sense? All right, and right now it's not constrained. Yes, it is. It's not constrained in the bottom, so I'll just put it there. And move it back up. So it's at 24. So I go back to design mode, see if I have any constraints to code. There's no constraints. Okay. Am I going too fast or anything? I mean, is what I'm doing make sense? Okay. All right. So let's go to the code for this. And I'll tell you what we can do is we can grab the code we had before, because it's going to be very similar. In fact, that's I don't know, that can lead to too many errors. So let's not do that. All right, but you may decide later you want to after we do that, just because of the fact that so much of it is the same. So I'm going to go here to group stats activity.java right there, and up here again I'm going to, well, I didn't put comments in my last one. So text view, I think we call that TV results, and button, and I think we call that, now I think I just called it button return. Again, you see the stuff that happens all the time, because again we're on a different activity, so it doesn't understand this stuff that we did before, so you've got to import the classes in. Okay. And we will need a couple variables in here too. Again, they're all integers except the result. So integer total underweight, integer total overweight, integer total optimal weight, and integer total obese. Plus my string, it's going to hold the result, because I'm so anal. I'm going to put my optimal above my overweight. Is that okay? Questions on any of that? We come down here, and just as we've been doing, TV results equals find view by ID r.id.tv results. See, something is goofy just because of the fact, you notice here, I think I called this TV results on both pages, and it had no problem. But when I tried putting in button return to home page, it didn't like it, and I don't know why. This I can still call return to home page. Equals find view by ID r.id.btn homepage. So I found it there. Understand. You're just a btn return. Okay. All right, and now it's going to look real similar to what we did before, just so you know. All right, so I'll start putting that stuff in. Somehow I lost a curly brace in here. There it is. So. Bigger. Okay, and now I am going to be lazy. I'm going to grab that big if statement that I had before and then just make changes to it. You do not have to do that. The way I've been typing today, total optimal. What's wrong with it? Oh, made it a big double equal. Right. All four of these are get ints because again they're all accumulators, so the default value on all of them will be 0. Give me a second to catch up on that. We've written a heck of a lot of code today. I haven't added it up, but I'm sure it's several hundred lines. Well, I really wish we were in the other room. It's just, I hate being in here. And then, as we did before, and again, I'll just grab it from the individual ones, we're going to fill up this thing. Now I'm going to get errors because the names are all different, but that's okay. thought something was in the ceiling for a second. So the only thing that will be left in there will be to put in that finish. I got to figure out how to fix that, and I'll do my darndest to get it done by tomorrow morning. So, or by later than the beginning of class tomorrow. Now I want to check something here, and that is I want to go back to my main activity, and I want to see now if it's at least going to go to that last page. Oh, I didn't change one of them. There's an error. I didn't change one of them from a get string to a get int. See that right there? So that's an error. Get int, get int, get int, get int. Good. So there's a couple things that I'll have to look at, all right? And one of them is that finish button, and the other one is I'm going to get rid of some of those line things. I might have more lines in there than I thought I had. Isn't that changing? Don't have any idea. No, I didn't even ask you today. Is it working okay on your machine?
No, but I was doing down stuff.
Okay. Please remind me. Okay, I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming me. But please remind me, and I'll bring it in then. So I can go in 72, 111. I can calculate. Boom. I can go to my individual stats. Oh, there they are. See that? My stuff is there. I guess I'll have to play with the sizing, but that's okay. If that's the least of my worries, then I am fine. But I want to run it one more time, and I want to check my group stats. We'll put in one of each one just so we can see whether or not they work. Okay? So let's put in 72, 111. I know that that person then is underweight. 177, that person should be optimal weight. 199, that person should be overweight. And 333, that person should be obese. Make sense? All right, I do have, there's for my last one, the status is wrong. This is all goofed up, but I'll have to fix that. All right. And of course, that's not I pressed the wrong button. Oh my goodness. I'll just do one. So 72 and 111. No, I want to do more than that. So calculate. 66, calculate. 99, calculate. 333, calculate. Now I want to do group stats. And there you go. So other than having to fix some space issues and stuff, am I right in assuming you guys can do that? You know, all I got to fix, I think, is fixing that home button. All right. And if we get that done, then we'll go on tomorrow. Like I said, the first thing I want to do is quickly, and I mean quickly, 10 minutes or so, go over those PowerPoints, then go over Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is very similar to I think it was one of the chapters that we went over in the C# book, because most of the debugging tools are the same. All right, so we'll just take a look at some of the stuff that's in there. I got to warn you though that next week sometime, midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll have our next test. Okay, and you'll know what it is because it's very, very similar to what we're doing right now. Then we go into Unit 4. That's the longest unit in the book. It's almost 100 pages. So we're going to break it down. We're going to do some of it and then do a program, some more of it and then do a program. So one of the things that's in there is that recycler view that I talked about. All right, and I want us to do at least one recycler view program as a class. Okay, so that was a lot, like I said, to throw at you. It is 3:30, it's early, but I'm letting you leave anyway, so I'm done.